Okay, I'd like to call to order the Conservation Advisor Council for the town of Niskayuna. This is the September 6th, 2023 meeting. And let's start off the meeting with a call to order. Laura, would you give the roll call, please?
Sure. Online, we have Clark Henry, Chelsea Ratner, and Vicky Michaela. And in the room tonight, we have Ellen Daviero, Ashok Ramasubramanian, and Chairman Strayer.
Great, thanks. So before us, we have the April 2nd, 2023 minutes. I didn't know if anybody had some corrections or comments they wanted to make on it. Yep.
I didn't attend the meeting.
I read everything at all, which is fine. I didn't see any mistakes, but.
Okay, Chelsea or Vicky, did you have any comments you wanted to make on the?
No comments from my end.
Not for me either.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes as written. Do I hear a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, Laura, do we have anybody online that would like to talk with us?
I don't have anyone online, and I didn't receive any emails.
Okay, fine. Well then, why don't we move to the EAFs? The first one that we're going to look at is EAF 2023-6. It's River Ledge of Niskayuna, the phase 2 of that particular project. It's on 2837 Aqueduct Road. And the applicant has been before the Conservation Advisory Board previously with various renditions of phase 2. Just as a reminder, phase 2 is a senior living center, and it's approximately 55 senior apartments. And there's also a commercial space, which is about 2,000 square feet. And that's actually in the drawing, that's actually separate from the senior housing. Last time they were before us, we discussed the facade, and we also looked at the parking. And one of the comments that we had made was that it would be hard to remove the snow from the cars if it wasn't covered. And the applicant has come back and provided covered spaces for the residents, at least for some of the parking spaces.
Yeah, just on the back part, no, those are
The back on the side.
Yeah,
there,
the garage
you see
is,
that?
yeah, and there's one for each apartment unit, I think. So there's 55 apartment units and at least 55 covered spaces in the garages.
And then there's like another 60 spaces that are not covered.
Which our code, although they're PUD so they don't have to abide, but our code says one covered and one uncovered for apartment.
right, so all those ones in front and on the sides are uncovered.
Yeah, and then the ones,
The back are.
all the ones in the garages,
Mhm.
yeah.
Now, are they at the maximum of the parking spaces or
They're over the maximum. I mean, there isn't a maximum, they're over the minimum.
they're over the minimum? What is the minimum?
So the minimum would be 110. And they have 55 covered and 68 uncovered. So the minimum would be 55 uncovered.
Mhm.
Although that's not entirely true because there's also commercial space in that building. So they're probably very close to the minimum.
Okay.
Is this one white? I think this one was one thing I didn't look at.
It is not.
Ellen, could you turn your mic on, Ellen? It's a little hard to hear you.
Oh, and pull it close to you. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay,
I was just wondering if they were, if it was one way. The parking,
It is not. No, it's 26 feet wide, which
Okay.
means two-way.
two-way,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm just gonna give a little bit of background. Like I said, I was hoping maybe the engineer would come, but it was very short notice. What I did pass around to the people in the room, and for the record, Georgia has has joined us virtually, so we are full aboard tonight. Hello, Georgia. Oops. Okay, so this is the rendering of what the garages look like from the building, and that's the rendering of what the backs of the garage look like towards the bike path. Worst case scenario. This is an elevation guide, so you can kind of understand. Like, here's the bike path, here's the retaining wall, the garages, and then the roof line, and that's what lines up with this. That's how they figured out what you could see from the bike path. This is really busy, but it shows how the units are laid out and how there's hallways to get to the parking garages. That's the latest and greatest facade of the building. And then I guess I'm just going to go, sorry for all the clicking, but conceptually, this is not the most up-to-date of the pictures. Oops, I must have gone by it. But the commercial space in the building is on the right. Oh, maybe it's not in the packet. Oh, darn it. It's probably not in the packet. But the commercial space are these big spaces here. Zoom down a little. These wide open spaces are the commercial spaces. And they're trying to tie them into the bike path. So they're making sidewalk connections and things from these commercial businesses to the bike path, and one of them is going to be a breakfast and lunch diner by the person who runs Buds on J, and then the other one is going to be ice cream parlor that takes over after the breakfast and lunch place closes. So they're there to serve the residents and the people who live there, but they're also trying to bring in business from the bike path, which is cool. It's very busy. I'm sorry about that. I should have included the other one, even though it's not up to date.
Laura, in a previous CAC meeting, we had talked about, wetlands. Is there any update on the wetland disturbances? Like, how does this proposal compare to the earlier drawings?
So the original drawings disturbed this whole entire wetland. Well, it's not delineated, but
I thought they shortened it.
I'll just see if I can highlight it. So do you see these little like dotted areas? Probably it works out better on your own screen. Those are the wetlands, and originally both these wetlands and the ones over here were proposed to be disturbed. There was going to be 2 buildings. They moved it back to 1 building from the last time that the CAC looked at it. So one of the things that the CAC noted in their original review was that they would like less disturbance to the wetlands. So this is less disturbance to the wetlands. Instead of disturbing 3 acres, I believe they're disturbing 1 acre, a little bit over 1 acre, but close to 1 acre of disturbance rather than 3. And so much less wetland disturbance than originally proposed.
Now, there's a stream that runs along that one road.
There is a stream, and the stream is proposed to be relocated in this proposal, and in part of their mitigation is that they are working behind the animal shelter on Maple Ave in Glenville, the Schenectady County Animal Shelter, and they're going to rehab the stream behind there.
Okay.
As compensation for relocating the stream here.
Mm-hmm.
So what they try to do is find sort of the closest area that can help for mitigation, that they can help with for mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the disturbance to the wetland goes, they bought credits in the Susquehanna watershed to build new wetlands down there.
And I'm not sure we've received it yet, but they have recently received their approval from the Army Corps of Engineers.
So the wetland, so whatever's green and wet there is staying green. Whatever is staying. They're not doing anything to that area. They're not disturbing it.
This area?
Yeah.
They're disturbing an acre of wetlands and
Right.
relocating a stream. Yeah.
Okay. But that's it. Not
but
the-
that's it.
Okay. And what about, so is there, so there definitely along the bike path in this area, I mean, we have an invasive species, issues. Are we asking them not to plant any invasive species? Are we making sure that they're native? Do we have any say? Do we just ask them nicely?
Oh no,
Oh,
you,
no, we do. Actually, why don't you go back to that
There's-
wall
I
and we
thought
can
we-
take a look at that?
well, this is the planting plan, which might change a little bit.
Yeah. So I think the concern is the visual impact of this along the bike path. And we have say in how we can affect that visual impact. And if that includes not any invasive species, that is perfectly appropriate.
Okay, because, I mean, when we looked at the plans for the other apartment complexes that were built on the river,
Mhm.
so they look great on paper, but when you go down there, there's not any greenery. There's just so much open space. There's not enough shade. There's not enough trees. I mean, it is just like the biggest lawn you've ever seen.
Hmm.
And to try to grasp and make sure that it doesn't happen again, I couldn't put to scale what I was seeing and what happened.
Although there is just, when you take down a tree and then you replant, it's always going to look bare because it takes those new trees like 20 years to get big enough to make it look shady again. So that's always going to happen to some extent because
I mean, but even I was riding, I've ridden my bike through there a number of times, and it's just, the number of trees needs to be like quadrupled.
at River's Ledge you're talking about.
Yes.
They
So that's
still
what I'm
have-
saying is, it's like, from what I see, this looks great, right? Like, so, we have greenery, we have the bike path, we're going to work against native species. We're going to plant native trees along this way.
Oh.
But then the same thing, we're going to have, the lighting from this, is definitely is a disturbance, I just think that we need to be just a little bit more cognizant and careful with that kind of stuff.
Although I actually think they still have more trees to plant in the northern part of River's Ledge. They didn't plant them all.
Okay.
But yes. Yeah, it does look pretty bare. when you go through there now.
And so I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I was looking at everything here, and to me, it looks like it's in pretty good scale, and it looks like, it's paved with good intentions, but I also don't want to see tons of grass and a sprinkler system.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think
So-
one of the visual plantings that the applicant has proposed is that where there's going to be arborvitae's,
It's Norway spruce, but
Norway
very similar.
spruces all the way along the path there. I mean, that's one option. The other option would be more natural. The wall that they're putting in is a stone wall.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying that it's not lovely. I'm just saying
No,
that
no.
to scale and to be able to, I guess what I'm saying is that maybe it's my nativity, not,
No, I
naive
think-
about it.
I think
And,
things always look bare when a new development goes in.
okay.
It takes a long time.
Right. And I also think, originally this was only supposed to be a 2-story building, and they held firm at 3, right?
Yes, that's true.
And so it's going to be taller, so the lights are going to be higher on this
Mhm.
building, so they are going to have an effect in the area, and it is going to have a lot of lights.
Mhm.
So, I'm just saying that we're not mitigating some of the things that, the mistakes we've made before.
So let me ask you this question. Do we have to put like high street lights in? When I was in DC 2 weeks ago, they had lights that were basically like 4 or 5 feet high and they shed the light just down. And it actually, they were using it to light pathways and
Ways.
walkways, but
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of light,
Yeah.
light pollution with them. They were actually quite good. And I'm wondering if that's something that we want to sort of ask them to do. Because that would mitigate the parking lot lights, or at least the walkway lights. to
Right.
some
But I
extent.
mean, yes, I am wholeheartedly for that, but I probably every one of those garages is going to have a light, if I had to guess, in the back.
Yeah, they're going to be shining on the building.
They're going to be shining.
They definitely do have lights. I know that Architectural Review Board looked at them. Clerk, did you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say, the planning board is thinking the exact same way Ellen is, and they brought up a lot of the same subjects. And they have asked for a rendering like Laura just showed from the bike path when the trees are at full maturity, to show what's it really gonna look like when it grows in a little bit. So they're thinking along the same way. They discussed lighting a lot, especially since residents will essentially be using the bike path to get around from this building on into River's Ledge and into the detached commercial building that's a little closer to the bridge. They're basically going to go out, get on the bike path, walk or ride or do something to get to that other small commercial building or to get into River's Ledge itself. So they had a long discussion about, can they put lights on there? What would be, some people were for that, some people were very much against that, but they definitely talked about keeping the lighting low and just making sure that this doesn't stand out. And just as another reminder, I guess they originally proposed two-story buildings, but then once they got into realizing how much wetlands was there, they eliminated one building, and that's what drove them to try to add another floor onto the building. So it definitely does stick up a little bit more, and that's why they got the height variance for the 3 stories. But that's the line of thinking that went into that.
Is there-
They also talked a lot about the covered garage parking. Originally, the parking was underground, which everyone really liked. And they're very, very disappointed to see that not be a part of the plan. But from a cost effectiveness standpoint, the developer said they just couldn't do the underground parking. So they're kind of going to the covered parking as an alternative. The planning board talked a lot about how people could get from the covered parking, since this is a senior center building. How can they get from the covered parking into their apartments? And the developer talked about basically a shopping cart system they have at some of their other developments, where someone could park in their parking spot and then use a shopping cart type shuttle system to bring their groceries or goods into the main apartment complex. They also talked about having designated loading and unloading spots near the entranceways, one in the front, one in the back, so that people could drop off their groceries and then go to their parking spot. So, they're trying to iron out all those details.
I'd just like to come back to the lights. So is there a discussion that they might want to light the bike path?
We
Is that?
Yes, they did talk about that.
Okay.
we discussed actually, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but there's pedestrian scale lighting from the Rexford Bridge to the Stewarts. They're these little like 3 foot
That's what I was
high.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah, they're like these little 3 foot high metal posts. At the top of the metal post, there's like a glowing light. I personally think that they don't add very much light to the bike path, but they do kind of guide your way. And so I don't think they add a lot of light pollution, but I do think that they kind of guide your way, even especially, when it's dark in the wintertime and stuff, you can kind of go from one light to the next. They don't like shine a lot of light on the bike path though.
So how does that work though? Because doesn't the Canal Corp have to approve that since it's the bike path?
They would. So what the planning board talked about was they wanted the applicant to explore the lighting subject to permitting, not make the approvals contingent on the lighting, because we don't know what, it's not the Canal Corps, it's actually the New York Parks and Historic Preservation Office. I think it's like NYPHP. It's long, and there's an O in there. And they have to approve the lighting. So what the planning board talked about was, if that's something that planning board or CIC or somebody wants them to explore, is they would explore that and see if they could build it. But the project couldn't be contingent on it because they have no ability to force the state to allow the pedestrian scale lighting there. But we could say we want it.
Well, I think if they're going to light it, that definitely has to be pedestrian lighting.
Yeah, you don't want to see overhead lighting
No.
there. That would be weird.
In fact, I would say that all the walkways in there have to be pedestrian lighted.
Hmm.
And I think, Ellen, your concern about the lighting, particularly in the parking lot in front, is a legitimate concern. So what options do we have there?
So my suggestion would be that one of the conditions that you discuss in your recommendations for approval would be that you don't want to increase any of the lighting pollution problems, that a final lighting plan should be approved by planning board or pass through someone to make sure that it's not too bright. And then I wrote down that because it's a 3-story building and you're adding lighting, that they should add even more trees and more landscaping to the parcel.
Yeah, I think the other thing, I think that the temperature of the lighting is really important. There's been some recent studies that people are putting these very high blue intensity lights, like at 500 degrees, and that's really disruptive to not only people, but the wildlife and stuff. So I would think that we would probably ask them to follow more of a guideline for less light pollution and impact.
Yeah, less than, I think it's 4,300.
Yeah, there's some,
Yeah,
there is.
6,000 is very blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we just have to be a little careful, Laura, because there's a code requirement that they have to illuminate the parking lot to a certain level, correct?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah,
actually
no.
it doesn't
Yeah.
change the illumination levels. It changes the color of the light. So
Sure.
6,000 is blue and 4,300 is more yellow.
Recently, they have done studies on it, Clark, and they found that there's a lot of disruption with the really high blue lights.
Right.
Both
Okay.
the people and light pollution, it tends to reflect better.
I know at the planning board meeting, they talked a lot about just making sure that the light shines down directly and not trying to minimize the effect from across the river or things like that.
Yeah, I think the other thing that helps too is not to have lights really high up, posts
Right.
really up. Because I noticed at some of them, even in the downtown area where we have the lights by the CVS, they're much higher than they should be, and it really throws light in the
Mhm.
neighborhood. And we really
Yeah.
need to have them scaled lower.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to illuminate the parking lot. They do not need to illuminate the top 2 and 3 stories of the building.
Right,
I'm sure
right.
it's a beautiful building. We don't care. Don't light it
We
at
really
night.
don't want to, originally we were looking to keep the rural nature
Yes,
of
that's in there.
the area. This is not quite it, but it's a nice looking building in my opinion. But at night we should try to keep it as rural as possible, not have the building lit up.
So, I had also on my list, so, has there been any mention of any, solar panels on these, on the parking garages?
Yes, when they came in March, they said that they were doing a solar study to see if they would be feasible on the roofs of the garages.
Okay,
I didn't get the results of that,
okay.
but I did talk to a solar developer who said it's on the north side of a 3-story building. It's very unlikely that they'd be able to put solar there. But I will ask them again because I know they were doing a study for it.
Okay, and then I guess lastly, is there, are these garages, they have the ability for EV hookup?
I believe, Clerk, jump in if you know this too, but I believe we asked them about that and they will have EV charging station charging parking.
Okay,
Yeah.
as well, okay. Will they have one in the front for the business?
I don't think we've asked them that.
Yeah, that's a good question. They're a pretty interesting group. I mean, they regularly survey their residents. I mean, if you've noticed, they've added a pickleball court to the Rivers Ledge already that came from interviewing their residents. They added the rec building as an output of a request by their residents. So that's a great point about the EV charging. And I would think they would jump all over that, but we can definitely ask them.
Yeah. So Dart was touching on this, or Chairman Schreier was touching on this, but these are the original conditions that you guys had put. Preserve and protect the rural character of Aqueduct Road, mitigate the loss of wetlands with landscaping, and protect the northern long-eared bat trees. Reduce impacts to wetlands, construct a public parking lot, explore transit opportunities, meet multi-family dwelling regulations wherever possible, and then install a sidewalk from the edge of Rivers Ledge property down to Aqueduct Road. So they do have the sidewalk requirement in their PUD. They are meeting multi-family dwelling regulations, I think, in almost every way. They are exploring transit opportunities. They do propose to construct the public parking lot. They have reduced the impacts to wetlands. But I do think that the preserving and protecting the rural character of Aqueduct Road and sort of mitigating the loss of wetlands / mitigating the lighting / impacts of removing the forest comes down to where we're talking about decreasing the lighting. Well, not necessarily decreasing, but not you don't need high lighting. Keep the temperature below 4,300. Increase tree planting to screen the lighting, that kind of thing, right?
The other thing too is I think that planting a row of pine trees or Norway spruces in a line looks really unnatural. And I think years down the road, you're going to see the wall, you're going to see the garages because they're going to lose their lower limbs and it's going to look very artificial. I almost think that what I would say is to clump the trees along the garage area in more of a natural clustering, and I would suggest we use trees that are going to like branch out over the bike path as opposed to short trees. Sort of, oaks, elms, or even maples, as long as they're not Norway maples.
Yeah, I can, I mean,
A
having.
mix of trees.
Yeah, I mean, if you ride on the bike path, there are definitely beautiful spaces where even in the heat of the summer, it's lovely to ride on.
Yeah.
And then there are patches where there's no trees and it's not as,
Yeah, I'm just
but
of the mindset, and I'd like to hear your opinions of like when someone tries to hide that, it looks really artificial, and it's there anyway. It looks very suburban. I would basically say, let's acknowledge the garages are there, but make it a pleasant place to ride.
Yeah, they actually want to use some of the big stone blocks from the canal and stack them up there, which would look nice.
Yeah, and maybe some small bush plantings along the wall at various locations. Make it interesting as opposed to just trying to hide it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking, I feel the same. Like, I think it would be good to clump trees in groups of evergreen and deciduous. And I also think that when you do that, like in the lower areas that maybe open up to a view, maybe you put pollinator species.
Mhm.
So I think there's a couple areas on this plan where you might not be able to fit any more trees, or it might not look good because it's going to be one long line of trees. But maybe those would be good places for, like, beds of black-eyed Susans and echinacea. We had originally, I think, said we would like to see a lot of different pollinator-friendly plants in the lower units, the apartment units that are built already, but they did not like the black-eyed Susans and a couple of the other things that we asked them to plant because I guess they like reseed and they don't come up in the same place, and so they make it hard for their landscaping to look perfect all the time.
Mhm.
Okay, but in this particular area, if it's not foundation plantings and we're saying put these along the bike path, if they don't come up in the exact same place, who cares? But I think it
I
would be
agree,
good to
yeah.
put some pollinator friendly perennials in there.
And what was the idea? Were we going to cut the grass here, or were we going to try to keep it natural along the bike path?
I don't think that was fully discussed actually. I mean, our highway department mows 2 to 3 feet on either side of the bike path
Oh, they do.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's never allowed to go. The grass and the whatever is never allowed to go right up to the edge of the path.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I realize that. I guess who was going to maintain that? The town was going to maintain that? To the wall, or?
It is on the landscaping that is proposed to screen the garages is on the town side of the yeah.
So are we working with the town to figure out what is best for them as well for mowing
For
and
long
stuff?
term maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could ask them.
So, I mean, I know that that the original, this will be my last thing, sorry. Does anybody else have anything to say? I feel like I'm the only.
had
No.
Okay, go ahead.
But go ahead.
No, this was just my, it's the parking, it's the seniors and the parking. And then the access to the building. And I know they're trying to have like drop offs and stuff like that. It just, I have to say, I'm not 100% sold and I'm not exactly sure. Maybe, let me just look and see if I can find like where elevators are located and, in correlation. And I mean,
That's in the really busy plan.
yeah, and I was
Here.
kind of, yeah. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, sorry. Michelle.
Go ahead, Ashok.
So regarding the, Laura, as you mentioned, in a previous CAC meetings, we talked about the wetlands and the preservation. So regarding the 2 acres of wetlands that are not disturbed by this construction, what guarantee do we have that, like 3 years from now, somebody says, oh, we have plans to make more commercial or more housing in those remaining wetlands. I'm sure Susquehanna is a beautiful place, but it's not our town for
It's not our river.
compensation.
Yeah. That's a really good question. A lot of times when you get your wetland permit for the Army Corps of Engineers, you show them the 3 acres of wetlands and you show them, I looked through the EAF, they're actually disturbing 0.84 acres of wetlands. They will make you deed restrict the remaining wetlands for no further development. The Army Corps itself will do that. If they don't, I think that we should ask that they're deed restricted.
Yeah, that would be a very important consideration for me, and I suspect others on this council as well, that, okay, our loss is Susquehanna's gain, fine. I'm sure they're good people, but we want to definitely hold on to the remaining 2 acres in perpetuity. That also goes towards maintaining the rural nature of that area, the Aqueduct Road area. And of course, wetlands are very good prime habitat, and a deed restriction would be fairly critical.
That's a really good point. Mhm.
No, that's excellent. To our members online, we don't want to ignore you. Do you have anything you want to add? I don't want to put you on the spot either, but.
No, I mean, these are all really good points. I was mostly concerned about the lighting as well, but Ellen definitely hit the nail on the head with that one. So otherwise, I'm thinking, as long as we include all the things we've discussed, it should be doable, but it's just if they, agree to it.
Okay.
I was wondering, this is Vicky, how many, does anyone know how many EV chargers there are currently at Rivers Ledge?
So I believe that the apartments that are built on the other side of the bike path, they all have individual garages. But I believe they built the individual garages so that each individual garage can charge an EV. So there's 160 units
I see.
down there, and essentially 160 garages, and the garages are able to provide level 2 charging, I believe, to the cars.
Level 2, okay.
Yeah.
That was my other question. Okay, and then we talked briefly about solar, and I guess maybe it was Ellen mentioned about putting solar on top of the garages, but has the idea of putting solar above the outdoor parking ever been?
I don't think we talked about them, or if we did.
It's a good use. It would also protect the home, the cars from.
Yeah, I mean, you do see that. Like, if you go to Rotterdam,
Provide-
you do see that. The panels would be very close to the road with very little screening, though. I don't know aesthetically, like, if that, but we could explore that because that's the south side of the building.
Mhm. I mean, I think sometimes, obviously, there are always going to be some pros and cons to things, and sometimes aesthetics are sacrificed in the service of green, practices and renewables. So anyway, just throwing that out there. And I noticed a couple of other things. So I noticed when I was reading the packet, the Complete Streets requested bike racks in front of the commercial portion. So I wanted to bring that up, whether that was part of the plan. If you see it on the design, I don't know if that was something that would be visible on a design, or if that's something, but that's something also worth following up on.
Sometimes you see them on the design, and sometimes you don't. But I feel like that's a really good point to put into to any condition. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was looking at this idea of solar too, and one area where you might be able to put solar on is on the roof, behind the roof line on the flat part of the roof of the building. I don't know how high those precipices are, but you might be able to put something up there. If you go to the
Yeah, I'll bring up the
3D roof view.
Just throwing this out there, why don't we,
Right there.
solar shingles?
So I'm wondering if, to achieve the some solar input, whether panels could be put on that roof without being visible to the road. That might be something. That way you would utilize that flat roof
Yeah.
and
I
not
didn't see that.
not necessarily impact the aesthetics, which I know is important to the community in that area.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I will write that down to ask them. I think what's not showing here, though, is that there's individual HVAC for each unit on there.
If it's not doable.
Yeah, but they could maybe, and yeah, I don't know. I'll ask them.
It's worth
It's
an
worth
ask.
asking.
The only other thing I wanted to say was that I know someone who lives at Rivers Ledge, and she said they use a lot of pesticides on the lawn.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that same
So,
complaint from.
that came up.
They had agreed
What?
here before when we talked to them about this building to maintain this building as a pesticide-free site. So we should put that in again too. I mean, they committed to it. I don't know that the first one was done in 2017, so I don't think that was ever discussed with them. But I know when they were here, we brought it up with them, and they thought they could do it. I remember discussing it with them.
Yeah, I don't have a recollection. I'm trying to think.
Pretty sure on the March meeting. We asked them if they could do this one pesticide free.
I'm talking about the original time they came in front of us.
Well, in 2017, we didn't discuss
No, I
pesticide
don't
free
think we
practices with
Yeah.
developers. That's sadly 6 years ago. That was only 2 years into me being a planner, and I remember we didn't have stuff like that in place yet.
No, we didn't, and I think we were just focused on getting the Williams auto dump.
Junkyard away. It's true.
I don't think there's any reason why we can't reach out to them and just encourage them to not use pesticides and why. And I also, Vicky, I mean, I would just tell your friend to, or whoever lives there to, if management doesn't know, they are not going to change their practices. When I see people at the farmer's market and they say they live in buildings, and someone does live down there, maybe it's the same person, but I told them if they don't know, they're not going to stop. And if you don't bring it to their attention, it's not going to change.
I've actually gotten calls about pesticide use at Rivers Ledge, but it's not illegal. There's no code violation from the town of Niskayuna for them to be putting pesticides on their lawns. So well, I agree with you, Ellen. It's a call to management every time the pesticides go down.
Yeah.
Like, please don't do that. Here's why. And if they hear that enough, then hopefully they start to change. But there's no way for the town to enforce a code that doesn't exist. And we can't. We're preempted by the state. So that really has to be driven by the residents, unless we're and actually it's not us, but if the planning board was to put something into the resolution that said, this shall be a pesticide-free site, then we can enforce it. But we've never done that ever on anything.
It sounds like they're sensitive to the residents' opinions. You mentioned something that they put in response to the residents asking for it. And it could be, on their website, they say EV charging stations, as a point of, selling these apartments, and maybe pesticide free, healthier for you. We have wetlands that also that the pesticides impact.
I don't think it hurts to just bring it up.
Oh, well, I really think they said that they would do it.
And the other thing that I really just
should
want to start
remind them.
bringing up to, it really needs to be assessed is how close they are to water.
Yeah.
And that, Lake George, they're able to stop, pesticides being used to prevent runoff, on their lakes, this sort of thing. So,
Yeah, so it might actually have a trickle effect, right? If we can get them to agree or demand that this be a pesticide-free site, it would be kind of weird for them to have two different treatments for their whole ground. So maybe they would just switch the whole thing over too.
and then just one last thing. So, I was in Miami, and one of the things that they used was, they created natural shade by using metal, like they're basically palm trees made of metal, but then the leaves of all the palm trees were solar panels.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I mean, while palm trees might not fit into our aesthetics, I feel like, if there's an outdoor seating place for these people to seat, whatever you're constructing, perhaps, whatever flower or that being can, it could be a solar panel. Then you don't have to worry about, the roots of a tree growing into the parking lot. You're killing two birds with one stone. Just the thought process that I think we just need to start looking at stuff like
Do we
that.
have a website for that? Have you ever found them on? Because that's kind of interesting.
I can
Yeah,
find that stuff.
I would be interested in seeing that.
Okay.
Ellen, did you get you had a concern about the layout of the building and
Yeah, it's
accessibility?
just
Did you-
it was just where the elevators were and the access for. I just hope that the seniors that they lay out a good plan. So
Mhm.
So it looks like there's only one elevator.
yeah, that's all I could find as well.
The elevator's over by the cafe.
Yes.
Then there's an entry over by the cafe, and then there's an entry over here, over on the other side of the building for, I think, probably any unit that's parking over here. So they have a big corridor to get to these parking places. And then there's also another set of doors for residents to get in on the other side of the building over here.
But there's no elevator on that side.
There is no
correct?
elevator on that side. Stairs on this side, elevator,
On that
and
side.
stairs on this side.
Yeah. That's all I could find, but I just thought it was me. Anyways,
Yeah. So this is the cafe. That's the clubhouse. I forgot about that. That's kind of like an interior exercise room, seating area for the residents.
yeah.
And then I think the area that's labeled leasing is what they would be considering possibly for an ice cream parlor.
Mhm.
Okay. That's all my concerns.
Okay, so do we have any other questions? Any other comments?
So
Why don't we go through the form?
I printed out the part one for the people in the room, but people online didn't get it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show it on the screen and just go through the answers quickly so that everybody understands what their answers are before we do our part two. And I'll try and do that quick for everybody's time, but I do think that we should look at it because the online people weren't able to see it. We just got it.
Okay.
So that's here. Okay, so it's a full EAF, which we worked on for the Mohawk Golf Club. Means that it's a bigger project. It's to construct the 3-story senior apartment building with the freestanding garages and 300 commercial square feet of commercial. These are just kind of general what permits are needed. They needed a DEC general permit, which we received, and they needed an Army Corps wetland permit in addition to town permits, which they received in September. That should be 2023. Not in a coastal area and not in a coastal erosion hazard area. Does the comprehensive plan include specific actions about where this proposal would be located? Those are both marked yes. The comprehensive plan identified this area as something that they wanted to change to recreational or residential because it was previously zoned industrial. It is part of the New York State Heritage Area, the Mohawk Valley Heritage Corridor. The Erie Canal borders the top of the site. The zoning is R2, but the overlay on that is a planned unit development. It is in the Niskayuna Central School District. It is in the Fire District 1, and it's adjacent to Aqueduct Park and the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail or the Empire Trail. So total acreage of the proposed site, which is phase 2, is 5.25 acres, and they're physically disturbing 2.85 acres. Total acreage of the whole property is 28. They're adding 55 units. They anticipate the construction period to be 18 months. Doesn't include any crazy construction activities, unlike the other phase that needed to be blasted because of the shale. So no mining, dredging, or excavation. Is it encroaching on a water body? Yes, it is. It is encroaching on the Army Corps jurisdictional wetlands. They are proposing to place 0.84 acres of fill into the jurisdictional wetlands. It does create a new demand for water, 8,000 gallons a day. They did a upgrade and install new water line in anticipation of this project. That was all paid for by the developer. It does generate sanitary sewer. They also added public sewer all along Aqueduct Road, and these units were anticipated by the developer. It's actually much less. They were anticipating 100 units, and they're only building 55. So it is already served by water and sewer that was built for phase 1. The stormwater will be managed by the existing SWIP that was in place for the entire project. Will it emit methane? No, it does. It will not release air pollutants. Are there public, private transportation services or facilities within 1/2 mile of the proposed site? Yes, there are. Are they proposing accommodations for alternative fuel vehicles? Yes, they are. And will they connect to existing pedestrian or bicycle routes? Yes, they will. They're committing to not exceeding ambient noise levels during construction. Here's the lighting question. Will the proposed action have outdoor lighting? They're proposing LED lighting and area lighting on the parking areas and soffit fixtures along the garages. We discussed that kind of at length. Will the proposed action use pesticides during construction or operation? No. But will the proposed action use integrated pest management practices? Yes. So I think that that's their commitment to pesticide free, right?
Laura, can you, I'm lost here, like what item number is the pesticides? I'm at F on page 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going pretty fast. It's Q.
Oh, Q.
Yeah.
Okay. H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P.
Page
Q.
8.
Okay, Q on page 8. Will the proposed action use pesticides during construction or operation? And they had checked no.
Because I think that you guys asked them to make it pesticide free in March, and they said they would.
Okay.
What does integrated pest management?
I'm
Right.
pretty sure that means I learned what that meant once. It's kind of like controlling, like, I could be wrong. I should double check this, but I used to work in an apple orchard, and my understanding was like if they had aphids, rather than spraying with pesticides, they would bring in ladybugs to eat the aphids.
Okay.
That's my understanding of it. Do you have a better understanding of that?
So, no, I'm not no, but I do know that there are some invasive species that, that we have in our area that cannot be controlled without herbicides.
Yeah, like the hogsweed, I think.
And the hogsweed is dangerous, but there's the other one, the Asian bittersweet that is all over there. And also those, I can't think of the name of it, the weathered, leafy ones that are everywhere that are overtaking the cattails.
Oh yeah, the Phragmites.
Where's Joy?
Yes,
Yeah, the giant reed grass.
yes.
They don't. You can spray them with pesticides and they just keep herbicides and they keep
They
coming back.
know that you have, that's,
Oh, you have to spray them with
I-
herbicides or they'll just keep coming back.
well, you can mow them down, I guess, but I don't know. Yeah.
Which is terrible.
Don't
'cause
get me
those all grow in wetlands.
Yes, don't get me confused. Yes, and they overtake the cattails.
Yeah, they do.
Anyways, I'm no expert by any stretch of the means, so.
Are you looking up integrated?
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's yeah, I've heard of this term before. It just says that they use common sense approaches and take into account the life cycle of the pest, and it's like an alternative to, oh, here is a pest, like they just bait the area with herbicide or something like that, or it's like, oh, this is what everyone does, this is what we are doing. So it's scientific. It takes into account the entire life cycle. It takes into account harms to the humans and the environment. It is not, however, something that's like all organic, all natural, or anything like that.
It doesn't have to be, but you
Yeah.
could use it as part of a.
Right.
Yeah, like.
So
you
they're gonna
identify
use, they're gonna use something to probably kill dandelions if that is, if they feel necessary. Even though
Yeah,
it-
but I'm looking at the principles here and it says, not all insects, weeds, and other living organisms require control, and you only hit the ones that are appropriate. Of course, that might be in the eye of the beholder.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Well, but if they say no to using pesticides and yes, using integrated pest management, I mean, I think you'd have to choose the integrated pest management practices that don't include pesticides. Right?
I don't know if that's possible.
Well, integrated pest management definitely allows
Pesticides.
pesticides, including synthetic toxic pesticides. And like Dot said, like this is a thing where intent really comes to play because the way the EPA defines it, there's a lot of adjectives in there. So it means different things to different people. I would ask for some clarification on point Q and say, hey, are you committing to not using lawn pesticides as a matter of routine and perhaps subscribe to the Niskayuna pesticide-free pledge? We understand that, if you see a wasp infestation or a yellow jacket infestation, you got to do what you got to do. But just blanket application of broadleaf herbicides like Roundup, use it just because that's what everyone does. That's what my landscaper does. That should not be done.
Yeah. I'll ask for that clarification.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah.
But don't use the word Roundup because they're not using it anymore. It's your broadleaf dandelion grub. But I mean, I don't know I don't know what the name of it is, but it's that creepy crawly Asian little one that it's hard. That's the hardest one to keep out. Like you can grow clover, you'll have your clover, you'll have all your grasses, but once that,
Or the creeping Charlie.
Mhm.
I have a lot of that in my yard.
you can't, you can't get rid of it.
It
You
it
have
has
to-
flowers though. The pollinators like it.
It's invasive though.
It's very invasive and if you're looking for aesthetics, it's difficult to, anyways, I'm just saying, very glad that they are looking to, not use pesticides. Let's steer them in the,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
let's steer them towards, perhaps, companies that can use neem and things like that, that will mitigate some of these right up front.
Yeah.
And the town also has recently passed that non-binding resolution, right?
Yes, they did.
So we definitely don't want to see those yellow signs pop up. That's sometimes I ask businesses like, hey, why do you have it? And the answer is like, well, that's what we always do.
Yes, they answer a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not a good answer.
No, and if we're able to convince them to try really hard on this one to not use pesticides, and then that trickles over into the bigger property to not use pesticides, if an operation this large is managing without pesticides, who knows what the trickle effect of that could be? Like, we need a really big player
Mhm.
to be taking care of a big property without pesticides to create the demand for the services that'll work for everyday people, right?
And
Yep.
and the proximity to the river is
I wrote that down.
just is crazy. I mean, that alone should be a factor for not allowing them to use it because there's nowhere for that runoff to go except
Goes
the
right into
river.
the river.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, it's not going uphill.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
anyways, that's my-
So, does not. Well, they didn't really answer the solid waste question, but that's not normally a problem in the town of Niskuna. The existing land uses are forest, aquatic, residential, and rural. There's a land chart in here of, what the changes of acreage are. essentially the forest land goes from 3.5 acres down to 1.75. You create 1.5 acres of roads, buildings, and impervious surfaces, and you create 1.25 acres of meadows, grasslands, and brush. And again, there's that number. There's 2.4 acres of wetlands now. There'll be 1.5 after, and they're impacting 0.84.
What would be the appropriate place to talk about the deed restriction?
Oh, this
I don't know,
is
'cause
their
this is just
answers.
theirs.
The only reason I'm going through their answers is because you only got them for today.
Ah, okay.
Um, yeah. And a lot of these questions, they don't apply. There's no dam on the project. There's no solid management facility on the project.
So, I'm not as so my one last thing, I'm sorry, because is just about waste. So, how they normally, so is there a place to ask whether or not they will offer composting on site?
We can ask.
We can ask, yeah.
I don't think we've asked them that before.
We haven't,
Yeah.
or I haven't asked any, but
I would suggest we put that on the second part where we make.
Yeah,
our
where we fill it out.
comments.
I'm writing down all those notes.
Yeah.
Silt loam, poorly drained soils, sounds like Niskuna. not very steep slopes. And there are wetlands on the property. There's not a significant natural community there. I've walked that site. I agree with that. It was largely elm trees that have all died, and the understory is mostly buckthorn. There's a couple of nice oaks and nice white pines, but they're pretty scattered. I think probably total there's probably about 7 or 8 of them. Are there any agricultural lands? No critical environmental areas. Is it kind of related to the historic registry of places? This site in particular is not, but the whole site did have to do SHPO because of its proximity to the Erie Canal and to the Erie Canal. And they did get that SHPO letter. And there's the map.
So I have a couple questions on this.
Mhm.
The first one has to do with H. So have they received all the certification, or is this site not involved? This site was never involved in the dump. Is that why it's no?
So H is probably an under point of a higher setting.
Okay.
Which page are you on?
10.
And
Potential contamination history. Has there been a report of a spill at the proposed building site or any remediation have been conducted? And they're saying no. Is that because that's outside
yeah, that was outside of the. This is not part of the
the
old
Williams?
Williams junkyard.
Okay. Then the second question I have has to do on page 11. The project is in a 500-year floodplain, and they say no.
That's
Really
accurate.
true?
Yeah. Yep. So the floodplain is doesn't even really come over the Erie Canal.
Really?
Yeah, but if you walk that pipe, you'll notice it's a good 10 to 15 foot drop down to the river there.
Okay, and is that designated by the state with the floodplain? looks
That
like?
is designated by the federal government. That's
Okay.
FEMA.
Okay. Okay, you can go on.
Okay, well, that's just my quick overview of their answers because I
Yep.
handed that out to you guys
Mhm.
tonight. So now I'll pull up our form, which we like to work on. It's our favorite thing. Right? Okay. So that was part 1 that we just went through. Now we're going to work on part 2. Because it's a full environmental form. You can answer the broad question. If you answer the broad question no, then you just go to the next broad question. But if you answer it yes, then you kind of dive down into the littler answers and dig into the details. So the impact on land, the proposed action may involve construction or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. And the question on that would be no or yes. And then no, just to remind you guys, no is really no or small impact. That's what no stands for. And then yes is moderate to large impact. So the question is there a small impact to the land or moderate to large?
Well, I'd say yes, because they're removing wetlands.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I concur.
And I think the answer to part A is a moderate to large, right? Because they're building over wetlands.
Okay. A is moderate to large. It doesn't have steep slopes. It doesn't seem to have bedrock exposed. I was answering no because on their question they said that the surface water was 6 feet or lower. That must be after fill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Proposed action may result in increased erosion. That's probably small. But I think for other impacts, wetlands have its own question, but we could say, more than an acre of disturbance.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've taken mitigating actions that,
Disturbance to wetlands.
but we should,
Yeah. So that goes to requiring more trees and
In their form on page 9, it's a loss of 1.75 areas of total forested land.
yeah, because that's what they end up clearing.
mhm.
Okay, so I'm putting more than an acre of disturbance to forest, disturbance to wetlands. So CAC requiring more trees. Oops.
I
And to
think
preserve and protect the rural nature, and then want the site to look natural. I was sort of trying to get to Ellen's point that it sort of looks like a bomb went off and it takes a while for it
Yeah.
to look better again.
I don't know if we want to say that opens, the remaining space needs to be forever wild. We can either put it there or we can put it
Oh, yeah.
elsewhere.
I'll put it there. We can put it in as many places as possible.
Yep.
Hey, Laura, for E, didn't they say that construction would take a year and a half or 18 months or something?
Yeah, they did. So deed restrict remaining undeveloped land and wetlands.
Laura, I like what you did there. Use the text edit feature to include a little text box right underneath. I like that.
Okay.
But going back to Clark's point, like I think one more thing should be the other box.
Oh, that's what Clark is saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, Clark. I didn't see that. Okay. Yep. Okay. Impact on geological features. Does the proposed action result in the destruction or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site? Cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, and caves.
I'd say the answer is no.
It's probably
Right.
Impacts to surface water. The proposed stream action may result one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies.
Yes.
So that's a yes because it's a big disturbance to wetlands. It is not creating a new water body. It is not resulting in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more of any surface area or body of water. The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. It's not dredging, it's filling. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater, tidal water, tidal wetland, or the bed or banks of any other water bodies. No, that one's not it either. Will the proposed action create turbidity in a water body? It should not
No.
because of their SWIP.
Mhm.
Will it include intake from surface water? It will not.
Laura, for E, can we add a note that the construction should not, put toxic stuff into the undisturbed wetland?
Would you put that under J?
What is J?
It's proposed action may involve application of pesticides, herbicides in or around any water body.
No, for E, I was talking about like construction stuff.
Yeah, he's talking about
Oh.
turbidity. He
Yeah.
doesn't want the turbidity to
You know.
impact them. We'll just say turbidity here.
Turbidity, yeah, okay.
It's a nice word.
Okay.
But turbidity is very specific.
Yeah, I've used it in Scrabble once.
Whoa, you must have gotten like 100 points. Okay,
I'm not
so
blaming you.
I don't believe any of the outfalls are discharging. I'm not sure about that.
What about the rerouting of the stream? I don't see a specific action on this. Or is that an outfall?
I mean, we could say yes. Well, a lot of times our stuff falls into other.
Okay, then we can put that in the other impact.
So the proposed action may cause soil erosion or other discharge that would lead to siltation or just so, which should not. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within the downstream of the site of proposal. All of those should be no.
Mm-hmm.
The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides and herbicides in and around or any body.
I think
Like
that.
we should say no, but clarify that there's supposed to be a pesticide-free
Yeah,
property there.
that-
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Yeah, so and this goes to I too. So if they regularly use pesticides, which they're already using on the other property, it definitely goes into the water body, aka the Mohawk River. And like Ellen said, the pesticide doesn't go up the hill.
I don't think that's how you spell committing, but the proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment. That's not true. So down here in other, do you want to mention the rerouting of the stream?
Yeah, and I think that what I'd like to see done is when the stream's rerouted, that it's maintains a natural flow. That makes it, there's a name for it. I can't think of the name, but maintains a natural riverbed.
I think they're piping it though.
Oh, they are piping it?
Yeah, I think that's why they're doing the mitigation over on Maple Avenue.
Okay.
But should we say rerouting the stream should maintain the stream's natural flow?
Yeah, I mean. you
Yeah.
could-
The other impacts, the impacts of the stream being rerouted are large.
How does that work though? Because you have the stream while it's open, attract, is that where they have it coming through the bridge there and the blocks, the canal blocks?
Yeah.
There's a water feature there, so that's all gonna be piped now?
No, because the outfall is going to be in the same place. It'll essentially look the same from the bike path.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
How big is this stream?
not very big.
No,
2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet?
No, like 1 foot.
it's like 1 foot, but it flows. There's a lot of water that flows
Yeah.
through.
Okay.
I mean, it's not,
True.
I mean, is anything known about the kind of creatures that live in that stream? Like frogs or
Oh.
whatever?
I think what we're talking about isn't very
I'm sure there's frogs and salamanders.
I'm
and stuff
sure
in it.
that, but I don't think it's. I'm not entirely sure it's like a stellar quality currently.
Okay. Is it the one that runs along the bike path?
Well, that one's not going to be impacted. It runs
No.
through the project site.
It
Okay.
comes from the other side of the street.
Hmm.
Okay.
At least the part I've looked at from the bike path.
Yeah, it runs through the site.
Okay.
Laura, can you scroll up just for a minute, back up to those?
These ones?
Yeah. For something like H, we're saying that the stormwater plan they have is adequate to protect that from happening,
Yeah,
right?
that
Okay.
is what we're saying.
I'm just thinking how, do they still have that bit of erosion coming down on phase one? You know, where it comes off that big hill, there was still some channeling.
The last time I was there was still channeling, although it didn't look like it was getting worse.
Okay.
So let's say patch any existing erosion channels. There. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Claire.
Good.
Are we done with that one?
Mm-hmm. I am.
Impacts on groundwater. Will the proposed action result in any new or additional use of groundwater or introduce contaminants to an aquifer? That's a no. Okay. Impact on flooding. Proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. So it's not in a FEMA designated floodway or a 100-year floodplain or a 500-year floodplain, but it is in a wetland that currently collects water. And
Mhm.
so it is requiring modification of existing drainage patterns. But it should not create water flows that contribute to flooding per
Well, that would be taken
design.
care of by the SWIP, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and the stormwater management
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
So I know that we're using like the 100-year flood, but you know, with our climate getting warmer, it's the whole point isn't that, you know, it's, I mean, the amount of rain that we're getting per small amount of time is what causes flooding. So the drainage needs to be really good because it's even happening like on our streets and
It's
You're
true.
talking
And-
about the intensity of the rain.
the
Yeah.
intensity of the intensity of the rains that we're receiving have risen dramatically.
Hmm.
I don't think they're going to get less.
So do we want to say yes and then just clarify that just for that point? Because I think
Yeah.
you can say yes and then it's not any of the FEMA regulated floodplains because that's different. But that it's
I mean, it is asphalt. It is a lot of, you know, there is a lot of surface there. So they just need to, you know, make sure that they have correct drainage.
Yeah, I think the way to put it is that they should plan for high-intensity rainfalls. And-
higher intensity, shorter duration rainfalls.
Yeah, it is a good opportunity to highlight climate crisis, right? You know, don't plan with existing guidelines.
Yeah, it's funny, I had a conversation with Laura and Clark this morning about that. So,
Well, just even when people, I'm just, even just on our street, you know, somebody, you know, is repatching something on their end of their driveway or
Mhm.
was repatched because it got dug up. You
And
know,
it changed the drainage.
and
Yep.
they didn't do it correctly and their whole entire front yard flooded.
Although we had a really bad rainstorm. Okay. I put plan for higher intensity, shorter duration rainfalls. Climate change is increasing rainfall intensity.
Mhm.
Changes to existing drainage should accommodate that. this. Okay. Impacts to air. Does the proposed action include a state-regulated air emission source? No, it does not. Impacts on plants and animals. Does the proposed action result in loss of flora and fauna? I feel like the answer to that is definitely yes. Will it reduce the population of any threatened or endangered species? That's probably a no. Will it reduce or degrade? That's for the second one is rare and endangered species again. And then individual species of concern. So theoretically, for the record, DEC had a significant overview of this permit for disturbance and didn't indicate any of that. So really that's a deference to DEC because they're much better at knowing where endangered species are than we are. Yep, and then D is also species of concern. Proposed action diminish the capacity of any registered national landmark. That's no. So the proposed action may result in the removal of any portion of a designated significant natural community. We don't have any of those yet, although maybe our NRI will make them, right, Ashok?
Maybe, yes.
And then will it substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for predominant species? It's probably a no. Yes. I don't really
I don't
the
know, it
answer to
depends
that
on how
question.
high up the food chain you're going,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like, I'm sure the mice and the, raccoons and the bunnies and,
Well, we could put yes, and then that would be a place where we said it's important to provide pollinator friendly habitat and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. I also think this goes to that you're basically taking the remaining land and locking it down. I mean, there's a loss, but you're taking some mitigation.
Okay. Does it propose to convert more than 10 acres of forest? No, it does not. Does it involve use of herbicides or pesticides? So let's put the same note on this one.
Yeah. Mhm.
Anything else we want to note about the impacts to the flora and fauna? Do you want to put the remaining area should be deed restricted here again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remaining wetland area, I mean, I would love for the whole remaining area to be deed restricted.
I did actually put remaining area should be deed restricted.
Okay.
Yeah.
and we have in there, no invasive species, right? No,
No invasive species in replanted
in,
landscaping.
work with,
Or what?
no, just who they work with to make sure.
Oh, yeah. Does it impact any agricultural resources? That's a no.
Yeah.
Impact on aesthetic resources?
Yeah, I would say it does, but I think there's some things that, we're going to do to mitigate that, and that's the planning. And it's also the building itself. I mean, we have mitigated that a little bit.
I like Dart's idea of the oak trees along the bike path. An oak is an excellent tree to plant for biodiversity and
Okay, so
natural
let's put all
habitats.
of that down here. So that, what did you say, Dart?
I would say that the plantings should be natural clumps and use trees or use trees that are large in stature.
The
And I
white
said
oak.
oak, elm, maple, not Norway maple. Along with conifers, I would say, you know, a natural mix.
Okay. Let me add any more.
And I would encourage them to use natural materials along the wall, that wall that they're using. You talked about using the blocks from the canal. We don't want cinder blocks.
Well, yeah, so we support the aqueduct stones or something similar.
Or equivalent
No
natural
concrete.
treatment.
Yeah, I think they said either aqueduct stones or Versalock.
The what?
Versalock. I don't know.
Mm,
You don't like Versalock?
No.
Okay, so we'll just encourage aqueduct
The
stones.
Versalock is very artificial looking. It looks, it's not natural.
Encourage use of aqueduct stones. All right, we'll just leave it at that.
How high is that wall anyway?
Can you see that in the plans, Clark?
What's that?
How high is the retaining wall?
Oh, I can't get to the plan.
Okay. I'll get back to you on that, Dart.
Yeah, okay.
Impact on historic or archaeological resources. Will the proposed action occur or is adjacent to any historic or archaeological resources? I mean, it is adjacent. Well, this part isn't, but the whole project's adjacent to the Erie Canal.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's negatively impacted.
I don't think it's going to impact it, so I would, because they've already gone through the ship boat.
Yeah, they have.
So I
Let's-
think that
Impact on open space and recreation. Will it result in a loss of recreational opportunities? I think that's actually a no, because it's building parking spaces for people to access the bike path.
yeah, and I think you need to put that
It's
in
building
as a
amenities to the bike path.
mitigation. It's providing recreational, access to recreational opportunities. I mean, they've been pretty good, I think, with the whole project.
Providing additional parking and access to Empire Trail, as well as providing additional amenities to users of the trail. And enhancing existing park space. Okay. Impact on critical environmental areas. That one's a no because we don't have
Yeah.
those. Impact on transportation. Will it result in a change to existing transportation systems?
Well, it's going to generate more trips. But I think when we looked at that, is there any indication that we're exceeding the,
We looked at the traffic study for the whole project,
yeah,
and this is actually less because it was going to be 100 and now it's 55, and
so,
it didn't trigger any.
so what I would put just for the record, yes, and then put under F previously,
Previously reviewed under the PUD.
yeah, yeah.
Previous.
Laura, I think it actually has the potential, if it can get CDTA to come down to a bus stop there, that could be a very good thing, because I know E1 always tried to do that, but there was not enough traffic or volume to get a bus stop along Balltown.
Okay, so
So people could bus to work if they couldn't drive.
yeah, I think it's good. So we'll put previously reviewed under the PUD, encourage CDTA to add bus stop, and maybe we could also say add bike racks to.
And,
racks.
regarding the bike traffic, it's a net positive because of the, the ice cream and the sandwich and all that. Like,
Yeah.
pretty hard to get food along the Mohawk bike path. Also, the additional parking would certainly help because I can't like there's some parking next to your neighborhood, Laura, and other than that, it's the top of the hill near
Which nobody wants to go down that hill. It's,
yeah.
Well, some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the number of spaces in your neighborhood is very small, like four,
Yeah, I think
five,
it's
six
five.
spaces.
There's
there.
some others, though. There's some other spaces across from the aqueduct.
Yeah, you don't actually realize it. There's
Oh.
5 right along the bike path, but you can park along the
There's that parking lot right off
you
the
can park
circle.
on the Rexford
Yeah,
Bridge.
but you have to
basically.
cross Aqueduct Road to
No.
No,
if
you
you
don't.
park there. No.
No,
It's next time you go over the Rexford Bridge when you're
Uh-huh.
going northbound, look to the right, and there's actually a parking lot on William Street.
Okay,
That parking lot can fit like 10 cars.
I see.
It's not very regularly used because people don't know it's there. It's actually a parking lot so that you can walk on the old aqueduct. You can walk on the old aqueduct and stand on the top of it and look around. That's why that parking lot's there. But
Okay.
you could also park your car there and use the.
There's also one, though, on the west side, too. You have to go up the hill to get to the bike path. It's on the other side of the,
There is that was actually built in support of the rowing clubs.
Yeah.
Meets,
you
but
could-
yes, you could also
you
park
can
there.
also park
Okay.
You have to go through the tunnel and then up a dirt path if you park on that one to get to the bike path.
Okay,
But you can use that one as well.
That's
Okay.
a herd path.
okay.
Yeah,
A
it's
what
I
path?
do it all the
A
time.
herd path.
Like animal herds?
Well, that's what they
Means it's
call it.
not paved.
It's not paved, it's
it's
not
not
maintained,
maintained.
it's just,
Okay.
A herd path.
yeah, herd path.
Humans make herd path too.
Okay.
It's not that we're driving cattle.
Uh-huh.
It's
Said,
an
said human is cattle in this scenario.
that's an acceptable planning term, a herd path.
Okay.
Okay. Impact on energy. The proposed action may increase in the use of any form of energy. I don't know if we want to maybe we could put all their solar stuff in here.
Yeah, I think what we should do is request that they look at incorporating solar
Low lighting.
panels in,
So, I mean, one of the things that that I'm having trouble finding the trees that they made, but I mean, they have funny looking trees, but they are putting them on like gazebos and what are those other ones that people sit under? Shoot, I had it pulled up.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could or
Pavilions.
incorporate into shade and bench structures.
Yeah.
yeah, I think though, like they should look at the top of the building as long as it doesn't impact the aesthetics.
Yeah. So I put incorporate solar into project. Look at garages, apartment roofs,
Pergolas.
garage roofs, and incorporate into shade and bench structures.
Pergolas is what is what people are you putting them on? Are
Yeah, pergolas. Yeah, which sort of go over the seating benches.
Yeah.
Okay. So impact.
But I want to make sure we're not going to wreck the aesthetics of the building, because I think that was really key. There were a lot of concerns early on.
Okay.
My reasoning behind that was it was a lot of work to hide the air conditioning system if we put solar panels up another extra
Right.
couple feet, then that doesn't,
They can put in solar shingles.
yeah.
Be nice
Those
to.
are still very expensive. Yeah, I know. But like the reason they're not doing the underground parking is, yeah. So I don't know. Impact on noise, odor, and light.
I think this is our light.
Okay, this is where we put all their lighting stuff. It shouldn't produce noise above established noise regulation levels. It's not going to result in blasting. It should not result in routine odors.
I think D is the one that we want
Okay, so
Yeah.
D is the one that we want to be careful with.
There is an international standard called dark sky. And they really get into the color of the light, the intensity of the light, the height of the light bulbs, and so on. And where they balance out the two competing things, right? Like you want safety and visibility, but you also don't want light pollution. Union College just did a major study, and all of our new lights are dark sky compatible. It's pretty cool.
Well, that would go to E, right? I mean,
I
specifically.
put yes for both of those,
Yeah.
just to be safe.
I would be comfortable with including, they should look at dark sky lighting.
Look at dark sky, like certified lighting.
Yeah, yeah, dark sky. Like a lot of lighting manufacturers will say it's dark sky certified.
Yeah, and you can do that with LED because it's directional.
Darksky.org. It's a thing.
And just to get back to the solar panels, so while the shingles, and the solar shingles get rebates back as underground parking does not.
So we could put that up here. We'll just put explore solar shingles.
Are dark sky lighting, is that compatible with light spillage to the neighboring properties?
It avoids light spillage to neighboring properties.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether it's just lighting the sky.
No, it started out as sky, but it protects communities from the harmful effects of light pollution.
Okay.
You know, it was started by a bunch of astronomers, but then it kind of branched into other
Okay.
things too.
Yeah, this is what I'm looking at this website. This is what I read. It disturbs bird populations.
Oh yeah.
Ecosystems are disturbed.
The humans are just awful. We're just like, we just cannot. I cannot.
Well, you know, I'm an optimist, Ellen. It's not so bad that we can't turn it around. A key data point is that the world population has stabilized. You know, there were initial projections that it were like 10 years ago, there were projections that we were going to go to 20 billion. Okay, we're not going to go to 20 billion. Like it'll peak around 9 billion. And that's not bad. It's manageable. We can live in communion with nature. I continue to be optimistic.
Okay,
So
guys.
Laura, do you have all
We're
the
approaching
things?
8:40.
If we put lighting on the bike path, it has to be pedestrian lighting.
Let me put that there.
Yeah, we are approaching 8:40.
Go ahead, Vicky.
I was just going to say, one thing that we haven't talked about is geothermal. I mean, it's a big upfront cost, but it does, it basically makes air conditioning free and it does pay for itself in the long run. So most likely this builder would not want to, put up that upfront cost, but
Well, we can put it in there. It's good to put. So we'll put explore possibility of solar shingles and explore geothermal.
Mhm.
okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Impact on human health. Will the proposed action result in or impact human health from exposure to new or existing source of contaminants? Which probably no.
That old automobile graveyard, I'm sure that's the wrong terminology, that's been fully
Remediated.
remediated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although that wasn't underneath the site. That was what Dart was asking, but yeah. So consistency with community plans. Well, is the proposed action not consistent with adopted land use plans? I think that's a no.
Yeah, I would say that's a no.
And then consistency with community character is inconsistent with the existing community character.
I would say there are some inconsistencies, but I think the builder has worked hard to mitigate a lot of them.
Is there any resident feedback, like from neighbors or anybody else who, but nobody lives close by there. There's nobody who lives
Yeah.
close.
No, there are.
They came a lot during the initial proposals. And after the construction of Rivers Ledge, the Outlaws residents were upset by the lighting and the removal of the trees. So we heard from them after the proposal went in.
All plus residents?
Yeah.
Yes, because
Mhm.
On the
they're
other side of
across
the
from
river.
the river. If you,
Oh,
But-
okay.
They were content with the, with it as is, but they were also not living next to the junkyard. So they didn't like it when the trees got removed because then it was much more impactful. There were buildings and stuff like that. But the people who live next to the junkyard were glad for the junkyard to go.
And that was a goal in the comp plan, was to get rid of the junkyard.
Okay.
The one thing that I read in the notes that they weren't going to use white, but yet the renditions had white in the,
So no, actually what happened was when they went to the planning board, they proposed 3 types of buildings and one of them was white. And the Alplaus residents came before the buildings were sided and said, can you please not do the white buildings?
Yeah.
And the developer said, it's COVID. We've ordered the white siding and it's like a year out and we're not going to change.
no, I'm talking about the senior center.
Oh, that there might be some small sections in
Yeah.
the senior center
Is
that are
everybody
white.
okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, Claire can jump in, but I think the ARB reviewed that
Okay,
pretty
that's
significantly
fine.
and was okay with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay,
So did we want to say like no, but just put a note on that? Or did you want to say yes and then put a note on
which one are we on now?
the impact,
consistency with community character?
I would put there was an impact, and I think that working with the developer, we've come up with a facade that minimizes the impact. And that the developer is going to put
Landscaping.
tree plantings to mitigate the,
Natural. Greening. Yeah. Okay.
I just think it's important for us to acknowledge
Note
that
it.
there was some work that was done here, and initially, when we looked at it, there's been at least 3 phases of this, the viewscape and the elevations of the building, so.
Okay. So
So I guess we're to the point now where you would like us to see if we are, if we would basically make a recommendation for this project. First of all, do people feel comfortable making the recommendation?
I feel comfortable.
the only thing we didn't put in our thing, we covered all the notes that I made during our initial discussion, except composting.
Oh, let's put that in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put that as a
Yeah, put it in.
Yeah.
Okay, Ellen, are you comfortable making a decision?
Yeah.
Okay, Vicky, Chelsea,
Georgia.
Georgia, are you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
I would entertain a motion on a declaration for this project.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
This is CAC member Ashok Ramasubramanian. The loss of green space always pains me. However, in the real world, we do work with developers. And this is a good project. The developer has shown good faith efforts to come our way and preserve nature. I have no hesitation in proposing a negative declaration for this project.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
I can second that.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion points before we take a vote? Okay, hearing none, I would take a vote on this motion that Ashok has put forward, subject to the conditions that we put into the part 2 of the EAF. So all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion carries as a negative deck. Based with a
6-0.
conditional negative deck.
Mhm.
with
And we'll add
the
all the notes.
conditions.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I misspoke.
Okay, we got through it.
Oh,
Those
good.
always take a while. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think it was important.
Yes.
Okay, we have a second project to take a look at. And if I can get my, thing back booted up here. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay, so the next project is EAF 2023-07. It's 2890 River Road, and the lot is on the corner of River Road and Seneca. Currently, there is a single-family home on it. It has approximately 5.26 acres, and then there's another parcel that's 0.83 acres. And the developer would like to take down the existing house and then subdivide the property into 4-acre lots, 2 of them being approximately a half acre, and then the other 2 are about 2.5 acres, give or take a tenth. And if you look at this parcel, what makes this parcel really challenging is there's substantial wetlands on the parcel. In addition to the wetlands, there are also water management issues in that particular area. Lori, would you?
Can I say something? I'm going to go off this one device and go on to another one, okay? So just,
Yep, sure.
thank you.
So Laura, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, the developer wasn't able to come tonight, but if they move forward with this project, we expect it to be a lengthy review, similar to the Polsinelli subdivision where we really had to dive into the drainage. Clark put together a really excellent PowerPoint of some pinch point problem drainage areas in the town of Niskuna prior to any submittal on this property. And this one was identified as an area that is struggling with drainage. That's just because you had both of the devices on for a second. Are you back, Vicky? Yeah. So, and just this gets to you guys' point about the rain. Clark really dived into this during the Polsinelli subdivision, but like what type of rainstorm we get in a 24-hour event, like what type of rain we got on July 30th. So normally we would see potentially 2 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, but we received 2 inches of rain in about an hour. So like that kind of gets to the short duration, high intensity storms that we're trying to plan for. And if you just want to scroll through this, I just think it's great, just information to look at when we're reviewing these, because he's really documented, what these drainage channels looks like. He walked them. That's Nick, our engineering, one of our engineers in the town of Niskuna. That's what that drainage channel that you saw the dry pictures of looked after a storm. And very similar, here's Seneca. This little red dot is where many of the pictures that followed are taken. But this area of forest here is the proposal for a 4-lot subdivision. So you can see it's right in that area that's very drainage challenged. And Claire kind of mapped out some of the existing drainage channels, some of the way that the water's moving. This is just south of the proposed subdivision. This big property here is Iroquois Middle School. This little corner over here is the River Road Park. And so a lot of water's coming from the River Road Park and from Iroquois Village and from farther up this drainage watershed, and kind of crosses through this wetland and into the wetland that's being proposed for subdivision. This is just a couple of pictures of that rainstorm and what the water looked like crossing from the existing homes into the area that's proposed for subdivision. And I do have some video clips that I can share the link with you guys. They don't fold well into the PDF. It just doesn't work, but I have them if you're interested. So there's sorry, I'm just going really fast. There's 2 proposals that were in the packet. One was their original proposal that showed a house on the corner of Seneca Road. That one was, we convinced them not to do that. That home would be on the corner on a property that would be like essentially unbuildable. the wetlands would come to the back corner of that house. They would have no yard and it wouldn't look normal in that subdivision. So they moved that house lot over to be off of River Road. So now they're proposing the 3 homes off of River Road and the 1 home after Seneca. They are proposing to fill some wetlands there in red, and that's just to make a yard. And I think the high point is that it's going to require a lot of drainage analysis. And did you want to add anything to that, Clerk?
No, just the point, you could see it if you looked at those slides. There's a lot of water right on the house that's on the other side of Seneca. So that's the backyard of that one house. On the opposite side of Seneca, where from the proposed site that would be developed with this 4-lot subdivision. So there is definitely a lot of stormwater analysis to be done on this. And, we want to be very careful that, especially those 3 lots along River Road, don't have water issues as well. Now, they are upland a little bit more from where the wetlands is, but there's a lot of work to be done, both with the DEC on what can be done to the wetlands if they need to drain a little bit. There's a lot of learning that has to go on relative to how to manage the stormwater on this, I think. So like Laura said, we kind of drove a lot of that to make sure that that was done up front on the Polsonelli Drive 2-lot subdivision, because that was upland a little bit from the Row Road, which if you saw the slides Laura went through, the Row Road area was another drainage challenged area. So we really made the Polsonelli Drive developer really study stormwater to make sure he wasn't adding any stormwater to that kind of existing situation. And we'd like to do the same thing here because it's definitely a delicate area.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in addition to the stormwater, I think we have an opportunity here to correct an error that was made years and years ago, and that is to provide access from Seneca to the town park and the school. So I would like to see a multi-use path in that corner connecting the Seneca to Riverview Park. Right there. Yep.
So they do show, we talked to them about that in our original meeting, and they are showing a bridge and path with an easement to the town
Okay.
for that. But yeah, that would be huge.
Yeah.
I don't know why that wasn't originally planned, but
For some reason, when the town looked at the subdivision for Seneca, that strip of land that sort of goes around, the town did not require the developer to give that to the town to provide access to the park for whatever reason. That was before my time on the board.
So that's a good point. You're proposing like a full multi-use path width path, Dart, right? Not
Yeah,
just a little.
I'm assuming that that's going to provide access for children to walk to school, and it's going to provide access to the park. I also had another thought in that same light, and that is along River Road, that the town get an easement. I know there's a real challenge there because there's a ditch, but it would be nice to get an easement for a public right-of-way eventually there, just as a matter of fact, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, for a
but
sidewalk
now's the
or
time to grab it.
Mhm.
So,
okay. So my notes are, definitely want to dive into the stormwater issues and want to ensure connection of Seneca to River Road, park in Iroquois Middle School, and upgrade that to a multi-use path, and then get easements along River Road for sidewalk or multi-use path in future.
yep. And I know we have a long road for that to make that happen, but it would be really useful to do that.
It's good to get the easements.
Yep.
Definitely.
We don't need to make a decision on this tonight, so this is just sort of a heads up.
Yeah, it's very early, and just scroll through your packet and see what you think. And if you have any comments, you can let me know or email me or whatever you think about it.
Okay.
Okay.
So discussion items. Laura, did you want
Oh yeah.
to talk about the climate smart?
So I'm sorry for you virtual guys. I was locked out of my office and I'm unable to email you my mock-up agenda. But I've been working with the town attorney on combining the Conservation Advisory Council with the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. And so one of the things that we wanted to do before we do the whole resolution is figure out logistically how the meetings would work. And so in discussions with Chairman Strayer, it's likely that because he's the chairman of Conservation Advisory Council, that we would essentially either leave reports, or in the mock-up that I shared with the people in the room, I have left reports and then made a new section that says Climate Smart Communities Task Force. We could just remove reports and have reports become Climate Smart Communities Task Force. We could do it either way. But what we're envisioning is that following any environmental assessment form review or discussion item, we would move into the Climate Smart Communities portion of the meeting. The chairman would become the Climate Smart Communities coordinator, and essentially all the reports that are on your agenda now would just move into the Climate Smart Communities Task Force, because they are Climate Smart Communities tasks right now. And the problem is that we don't really get credit for them because you're not doing them under the heading of the Climate Smart Community Task Force. So like what I'm proposing is just logistically, if you look at that agenda, to change the name reports to Climate Smart Communities Task Force, and then have you guys do your regular updates on the initiatives that you've been working on.
So what happens to the existing climate smart?
So
Yeah.
I will invite all of the existing members to the CAC.
Mhm.
It's very thin and it hasn't met in a long
Okay.
time.
Part of the challenge is that if you look at all the initiatives, they're coming out of this committee.
Mhm.
And because the Climate Smart Task Force doesn't routinely meet and has very few members, it's hard for us to get credit for that.
Mhm.
So the thought is to combine this, and then basically, if people are interested in Climate Smart, we could still have them involved in it,
And
in this section of.
let's see, like today, we are starting the portion at 9:05. So would they still come?
They'd have to, because they'd be
Okay.
members of the CAC as well.
Okay.
You wouldn't be one and not the other.
So those people are okay with joining the CAC?
I mean, I reached out to a couple of them and they're not able to continue with the Climate Smart Communities Task Force on its own.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if I'll be able to get any of them to come over to the CAC. But if
And the
I
CAC is a
can,
lot more work.
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I can, I will.
Okay.
I mean,
but the thing is, you guys are already doing this work.
Okay.
Like you guys are already regularly updating us about the Bethlehem Conservation Easement Program. Like Ellen created the pesticide-free program. Like her and Mickey worked on the composting day. All of that stuff qualifies as Climate Smart Task Force work.
Okay.
Like you guys are doing the Climate Smart Task Force work, whether you get credit for it or not.
Oh, so we
And
might
the
as well
Climate
get the
Smart
credit.
Communities Task Force is not meeting
Okay.
or really doing any of the work.
Okay.
So that's why I am proposing that anybody who wants to moves over here,
Okay.
and then you guys just continue to do the work that you're doing, but we essentially like adjourn. Well, it's not adjourning the CAC, but we'll essentially move into the Climate Smart Communities portion
Okay.
of the meeting, in which case, rather than doing reports, reports under the CAC, you guys are going to do your reports under the Climate Smart Community Task Force. But it doesn't
Okay.
change your workload in any way. It just allows me to have a formal meeting of the Climate Smart Communities Task Force every month.
If you look at like the boards in general, it's very hard to fill out the boards. I mean, every month, there are tons of empty vacancies in a lot of the boards. So this is a way to combine, the boards and get credit for it. We
Okay. I like it. I mean, if we are doing the work, we might as well
Yes.
get the recognition and the credit.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, like it's hard for me to juggle both those boards when they're doing almost the exact same thing.
Okay.
It'd be better to just put all of the people that are working on that in one place,
Okay.
and then hopefully that makes the CAC more robust. Like we have space for 3 additional members,
Mhm.
and yeah, we don't, we haven't been getting as many EAFs. Like tonight, we had a big one, so that takes us a while. But the last 2 meetings, we had none.
Okay.
So, and you don't necessarily need to have a huge amount of work done every month. It's just the same amount that you guys have been doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Laura about this, and I think 20 years ago, the majority of the CAC's work was environmental assessment forms.
Okay.
But as the development has sort of been reduced in the town because there's not a lot of availability, really the CAC has taken on, much more environmental scope,
Mhm.
broader viewpoint. So I think it's appropriate to do this.
Sure.
And so the only thing that would happen initially is that I will just kind of dive into the Climate Smart program so you guys understand it, because although you're doing like the natural resource inventory is an item in a Climate Smart certification. Like I think you can get like 10 points for a natural resource inventory. But what I would probably do is when we do the Climate Smart Task Force, like I can show you guys how the program works and how your initiatives earn the town points, the initiatives that you're doing right now earn the town points. And then just kind of, I can just give a summary of points and how many we need to get certified. Then you guys can do your reports. So you just see where we are, like where we're
Okay.
tracking on our certification. That would be
Sure.
the only change, is that
Okay.
probably the first thing would always be like an update on our points.
Okay.
And then the next thing would be your initiatives. And then like I have the GHG is greenhouse gas inventory,
Mhm.
and the climate action plan, which I think we already discussed running through you guys because essentially we don't have a climate smart community task force anymore. So we were going to bring that to you guys anyway, but that would be under that. You guys would review the greenhouse gas inventory and comment on it and potentially hold a public hearing where people were, wondering about it and asking what we could do with it and stuff like that.
Okay.
So what do people think on the committee?
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
So if nobody from that, it's so funny because I recently ran into somebody who's on that and I asked him, how many people are on your, in your committee or whatever they call it? And he said, oh, there's like 8 of us. And I was like, really? I didn't think there were that many. Anyway, this is according to him.
If that
But,
was Chuck, he's like
what?
the only one left, and I'm hoping that he'll
Chuck.
come over to the CAC.
Yeah, it was Chuck.
Yes. And he's
Um,
great. I love
if-
him. Get him to come over to the CAC.
I know, I'll talk to him. He's a neighbor of mine. If nobody from that committee comes over though, are we going to have a point person on our committee that sort of coordinates that?
Yeah. Well, the coordinator position, I talked to Daryl, and he's unable to continue, so it would move to Dart.
Okay. And okay. And are there, can we see a video of their last meeting just to sort of get a sense of, what they're like, what they talk about, and
They were a
how they go?
force. A task force is a lot less formal than the CAC. Their meetings were not recorded, and the minutes
Mm.
were basically just very cursory because they don't even make motions or recommendations.
Mhm.
But I can show you the program and show you some old agendas of stuff they worked on. Like they did, like Portia was very active in the Climate Smart
Yeah.
Communities Task Force, and she did an EV event where she gathered a bunch of different EV vehicles and had all the drivers come to town hall so people could see the cars.
I remember.
She also worked with the schools on Niska Day to try and do a zero waste event and teach people, about throwing garbage out at Niska Day, which
She still does that.
yeah,
she
I
did it
didn't
last.
attend either, but yeah, I think we've had some people from different committees volunteer for that to help her
Mhm.
with that. Although I think one year she did it like almost entirely by herself.
Yeah,
And
it's tough getting people to, volunteer, but I think she did. She was able to this last time. My other question was, I know that they used to, she tried to get me to join that a while ago. So I know that they meet at 5 p.m. Obviously we meet at 7. Is there any leeway in terms of the time that we meet?
no, I
Meet al-
wouldn't be proposing any changes to the CAC meeting. Like the only changes I'm really proposing are that we change the report section to the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. And you guys continue doing the things that you're doing because you are doing those initiatives. And then
Mhm.
I'll update you on where our points are. And the only kind of additional thing that you would be reviewing that nobody's taken on right now is the greenhouse gas inventory and the climate action plan. Because that hasn't, you guys don't have that initiative underway, but it's something that the town got a grant for that I've been working on.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to combine.
I'm hoping I can get a couple. Like I'm hoping that Chuck will come. He might be the only one though that is still able to volunteer of all the 8. I lost a lot of them to different circumstances.
Well, they're on the meetings are also on Zoom, so it makes it easy, or, you can,
Yeah.
you could, so it makes it easier to call in and things, so. Maybe. I'm all for it.
Okay.
It's time.
Yeah, I'm okay with Dart's coup d'etat.
The only other
Doesn't
thing
have to be that.
I was trying to decide is if we should actually on the title of our agenda say Conservation Advisory Council and then underneath it Climate Smart Communities Task Force, or just have it, down.
Whatever makes sense to you.
I don't know if you guys remember, but the Climate Smart Communities Task Force was originally set up as a subcommittee to the CAC. Like if you go back and you look at their original formation, they were supposed to be formed to report to you guys.
Yeah.
So I feel like, in my opinion, it's okay to just leave it as the Conservation Advisory Council meeting with the Climate Smart Community Task Force kind of adjournment at the end. Or not,
Sure.
I don't know why I keep saying adjournment. Section.
It reminds us that we, as much as we like to stay here all night,
It's time for an
it's time to
adjournment.
leave, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so given that, let's move into reports, which next month will be the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. So where do we stand with the Bethlehem Conservation Easement Program? Ashok, you were going to get some more information for us.
Yes, I was. So one of the things that we always run into is this money,
Mhm.
and Chelsea has been helping me, and we have lots of good information from Robert Leslie of Bethlehem. Chelsea also reached out to Jennifer Vigiani of Clifton Park. So we have, I have to put together a nice document for the CAC to consider and eventually make a recommendation to the town board. Notice that I used a future tense here. I get a C- for this, maybe a D, because I haven't actually done it. So even though I have all the information with me, I just want to make it very, very clear that it's not Chelsea's fault, entirely mine. I simply have not done it. I hope to have a document ready for consideration definitely by October's meeting. And there are a number of ideas. The Bethlehem CE program is a great one. They also have a separate fund for their farmland. The town of Clifton Park also has slightly different mechanisms where they set aside some money. Interestingly, Clifton Park has a voluntary donation program where residents can contribute money to buy land. Like they have like a 503c called the Friends of Clifton Park CAC or something like that. So we do have a lot of ideas, and please accept my apologies. I'll have something ready for the next meeting.
That's fine.
Mm,
We're
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, we won the grant for the natural resource inventory. That's really exciting. Good work.
Yeah, yeah. This one I get an A minus for the.
An A minus, you're a hard grader.
But that actually brings me to a thing that we need to do. It is time to set up a meeting with DEC Mohawk River Basin officials. The lead officer, her name is Catherine. We need to Catherine herself or somebody from her team, or perhaps both. I spoke to her at the award ceremony, and she said both online and in-person meetings are fine with them. Personally, I like in-person meetings, so at a minimum, it should be Laura, me, and Dot, with other people possibly applying. But I also had the idea, like, can we just fold it into a CAC meeting and ask them to come, or should we meet separately?
You could fold it into a CAC meeting. The only thing a little weird about folding it into the CAC meeting is that after COVID, it's easier for us to be sitting up here because of recording. So the DEC people, they're not sitting at a table with us, like round table. They would be like at a podium, and we would be up here, which is sometimes a weird power dynamic.
Well, I see those seats up there. We can rearrange
Yeah, you could.
chairs.
Yeah, but
You know-
I would say it's probably better to meet them like informally.
Okay.
So we can do that. I can certainly attend, but I need more than a day warning.
Well, we need dates. Like if we're going to meet them informally, then I need to, or me or Laura need to get back to Catherine. And Laura, I'm sure you have a million things on your plate, so I'm happy to do that. Reach out, as long as we have we can't say like, oh, come Wednesday at 6 p.m. Like, we have to give them like 2 or 3 dates for them to pick from.
Yeah, so we should talk, and we
Yeah.
can pick dates, but I don't have my calendar here.
And normally those meetings are during the day and not at night.
Normally, those meetings are during the. So
Yeah,
any-
that's fine. I can do that. But what I'm saying is,
Uh-huh.
you're gonna have to wait till I have my calendar in front of me. I don't have my calendar.
So when can I call you and bug you to fix a date?
Oh, the only other like maybe wrinkle, maybe not wrinkle, is that normally we have to sign the grant. She may not care. We may be able to meet with them before we've signed the grant, but they made the announcement official last week,
Mm-hmm.
and now the Grants Gateway has opened us to sign the grant.
Yeah.
The town board has to accept the grant. Then we sign it. So we won't be able to sign the grant until like probably September 20th or something like that.
Okay.
So the
September
only
20th.
question would be if she minds if we meet with her before we sign the grant. She probably doesn't.
Okay.
Or we could just wait until after we sign the grant and then set up a meeting.
No, I want to be proactive and
Let's-
reach out.
Let's work on a date after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we're not getting reimbursed for the meeting or anything like that.
No.
So, but any work you do before the grant is signed won't get reimbursed.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not getting reimbursed
Yeah.
for meeting with
No.
the
No.
DEC.
No. There's no. But I just want to be like proactive
Yep.
and
No, we can do
reach out and make a good impression for future grants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Ashok because he represented the town of Niskayuna at the grants announcement and was able to speak with the
Lieutenant Governor
Lieutenant
Delgado.
Governor.
I spoke with DEC Commissioner.
yes,
I have a photo with the DEC Commissioner.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was great, and I am very proud that you were able to represent Niskayuna and speak on our behalf to those people, and very appreciative that you were able to go to that event. I was only able to stay for half an hour, and it hadn't even started by the time I left. So I very much appreciate Ashok being there. It was great.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So I know I'm not done. Laura, any particular day or group of days that are good for you, bad for you
Well, let's do this. We can do this after the meeting,
today?
before we leave. But
Okay, all
I
right.
don't want to.
Okay.
I
All
wanna keep us
right. All right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Pesticide outreach update. Do we have anything?
No, the same thing. I was the August, I went in August and did some farmer's market, but I haven't gone yet. I plan to go in September as well, but the same thing. And then I have a meeting tomorrow for composting.
Good. Excellent.
And they are doing a composting pilot program at Craig Elementary School.
Mhm.
So,
Nice.
That's very cool.
When is the pilot program at Craig Elementary School?
it's anyway, it's going on now with with
Okay.
Cornell Cooperative Extension. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Okay, Lomo.
So the Lomo, I mean, as far as I know, has been going great. I haven't received any complaints about it. And I did get a voice message from Nick with Schenectady County Soil and Water Conservation that the wildflowers came in really nice. And I think the goal is this fall to do another section of wildflower over there.
Yeah.
Good.
So if there's anybody that wants to help us plant, just let us know.
Okay, when do you think that would be?
We did it in like,
It's late. What do we do it in September or October?
No, I think it was
so warm. It
October.
was
It was
so
October.
warm last
was
year.
still warm though. I think it was October though.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And on the topic of low mo, like is there any update from the highway department and Roy Thornton and all that about the disc golf area?
No,
No updates?
no updates.
I mean, I think the general consensus was they mowed less and they found birds that were happy there this summer,
Okay,
but it would be better if they mowed even more or less,
okay.
even less.
And what about signage? I think signage around that landfill would be especially helpful.
I think that Roy was working on some signs. Yeah, that's usually more of a spring initiative. He
Okay.
gets wound up in the spring to make sure that it doesn't get mowed.
Is there any money in the climate smarts, this or that, to pay for signage?
There's no budget for the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. The
Okay.
CAC does have $100, which you guys like never spend.
Okay.
So I
we
will
want
say
a
this is that
competitive Grant written, so you
Uh-huh.
can get the $100.
so we already have Lomo signs.
Okay.
So we already have the designated areas. So, I mean, we could put one at the cap, but nobody really goes up there. You
Oh, are
know,
you talking about where the paved area is?
so
Up on the top where the paved section is? There's the walkway up to the top?
Doesn't
On the-
really go to the top. That walkway comes off of the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you come down that steep hill, right? And on the right side of the steep hill used to be heavily mowed. It's no longer. And I have had conversations with people like, hey, why aren't they mowing anymore? It's all like overgrown. And I've explained to them like, no, we're not being sloppy. It's a deliberate attempt to improve bird habitat.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the
We can put
signs
some
that Ellen
signs.
and I made
Yeah.
would fit there too, and you could
That's
just
what
put
it
one
is.
in.
It's a
Yeah.
Lomo area.
You
and
could
the
just put
reason
one
why-
at the end of that bike path.
It
little
just,
spur.
yeah, I guess I'm not familiar. I'm not understanding exactly where this is, but we have the signs. We can put them up there.
Yeah.
I would recommend we put one on top
Yeah.
and then put one
That shed,
down.
there's a shed on the very top of the hill.
The shed's gone.
The shed's gone. Okay.
Yeah, that's
It
gone.
tells you how much I know.
But there is a nice, I walk up there all the time because you can see a nice view.
Okay.
But we should put one there, and then we can put it along the fence,
Yeah.
going down the hill,
Hmm.
probably two.
I do think we have a couple more. Ray printed a fair number. We could ask him to put some out there.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to make a new one. The one we made was beautiful. People like it.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
And it has all the information on it.
Mhm.
And then, so
Well, I'll volunteer to go plant it in the ground.
I'm not sure you can. do that,
Yeah, the highway department puts them up.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's got a clay cap. I don't think you want that responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the highway department will put them up.
Okay.
We have other things you can do.
Sure, sure.
Okay, moving on. Quiet Niskiuna.
Vicky?
Vicky, did you have anything you wanted to share
Yeah,
with us?
sorry. No, the only thing is that there is a non-binding resolution that's been prepared, and I believe it's going to go in front of the town board this month. What date is that, Laura?
It is. Oops. Wait, I can tell you. Hold on. It is September 26th. And I just wanted to thank Vicky. She looked at a bunch of other resolutions for me and came up with a really good one. And I submitted it to the town board. Unfortunately, timing wise, it was submitted a little too late to go on to the September meeting, but it'll be on the October.
Good, excellent.
Oh, it's not going to be, I thought it didn't
Oh,
go on the
sorry.
August meeting.
You're right.
But
Yes.
it will be in
Yeah.
It
September.
was too late for the August meeting, but
Yeah.
it is fully prepared now for the September meeting. So it should be
Yes.
totally fine. Yes.
That's about it. I'm going to be tabling it this Saturday at the farmer's market.
Great. Well, thanks for the work of preparing that resolution.
Sure, absolutely.
Compost initiative. Ellen, do you have anything?
Oh, yeah, that's what, I have a meeting tomorrow
Okay,
to start the composting initiative at, fingers crossed, at the transfer station.
excellent. So they're all on board with that, or?
No,
Oh,
no,
you're-
it's
tomorrow's the meeting.
tomorrow's the meeting.
Okay.
It
So
got pushed
fingers
off.
crossed.
It got pushed off from like July. So
Yeah, I
Ellen's
thought
been
that
waiting
meeting
very
already was.
patiently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ellen, I was listening a few days ago to North Country Public Radio up in the Adirondacks, and there was a very interesting story about Canton, New York, and their experience with composting. I'll try to find it and send it to you. So maybe some lessons learned
Great.
to avoid issues, because it didn't go smoothly.
Actually, New York City is moving towards composting over the next several years, and I think Brooklyn is the first borough to do that.
Yeah, we're not flying solo. This is.
No, I'm saying
This is
there's a
Cornell
lot,
Cooperative Extensions. They've already done this, used this
Model.
method and has been successful in other parts of the
Oh, no,
state.
I'm not suggesting
Yes.
we change
Yeah.
ships. What I'm just bringing up is
Yeah,
there's a movement within the state to really.
yeah, I mean, we're a
go
good 10
embrace
years
this.
behind, so, yeah, we need to, you shouldn't be putting garbage at the end of your driveway that we can easily compost.
Yeah.
So we must take responsibility for ourselves, so, but I'll try to be, so, yay.
And Georgia isn't here, and I forgot to put the wildlife corridors on
Yep.
here, but I'll keep trying to add it. Ashok and I were talking about the wildlife corridors in conjunction with some of the work we were doing for the comprehensive plan,
Mhm.
because we're mapping out the open spaces, and we talked about possibly just kind of plotting arrows and
Mhm.
just making general wildlife corridors, which we wanted to work with Georgia on. So I'll try and remember to add that on the next meeting.
Yeah, we should definitely have it integral to this committee as well,
Mhm.
since we look at all the,
I know that's Georgia's passion. So if we can start making maps of the
yeah,
leftover spaces and then draw kind of general like places where they could be going,
Mhm.
that I think Georgia can look at that and see what she wants to do next with those things.
excellent, good. Okay, which regrettably, we've gotten to item 8. So,
Yay.
Which I kept
is there a
inadvertently
is there a
bringing up.
motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the September 6th, 2023 CAC meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second Ellen's excellent motion.
Okay. Does anybody not want to adjourn?
Oh,
Hearing none, I recommend we adjourn.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Thank
Okay.
you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Jad,
Aye.
you can go ahead and stop the recording.